Look who's back in town. No, Emily, I'm not referring to me. I think Aaron Rodgers, he's probably trolling us with that shirt. Of course, if he had a sense of humor, he would have arrived riding a camel. As for Rodgers' old team, the Packers, they're loving life with their new quarterback. Green Bay, remember, won a playoff game last season, and now Jordan Love is about to get paid. And Bobby Witt Jr., he's feeling the impact of being a home run derby runner-up. Ouch, that hurts, right in the arm. There's going to be some pain on this show. A lot of mutes. Harry, you're getting one. Kevin Clark doesn't get one.
Wow. You think you know a guy.
Emily, Harry, Kevin, Bill. The substitute teacher is in town. Meanwhile, let's start here. The New York Jets. They reported to training camp this morning, and yes, Aaron Rodgers, back from Egypt, was in attendance, but there was one notable absence. Haason Reddick, he was a no-show. Reddick, the former Eagles Pro Bowl linebacker they traded for, he's holding out for a new contract. That's right, the Jets are already in midseason form. We all know Rodgers' first year in New York didn't go as planned. He took 4 snaps, actually 5 if you include his Achilles, and now a key defensive player is unhappy. Bill, this could be Aaron Rodgers' last season. That's what he said on Part of My Take. Are you optimistic that things will get better for him and the Jets?
Not with how this Haason Reddick situation is going. I shouldn't have to give free advice to NFL general managers,
Please do.
But yet here I am on this show needing to do that. If you trade for a player who wants a new contract in March, and you don't give him a new contract by the time you get to training camp, he's not going to be happy. That is where the Jets are with Haason Reddick. The Eagles were going to cut him if they didn't have a trade partner because of his salary. Jets traded a day 2 pick to acquire Reddick over the spring. They did not get a deal done. And now we are sitting here with a situation that does not need to be happening. The Jets should have resolved this months ago. And for a team that's going to win games, probably have their best shot of winning a title with an elite defense as opposed to an elite offense, Reddick needs to be there from the jump, given that he's moving to a new team, for the Jets to live up to expectations early in the season.
All right, you told me about Reddick, but what about Aaron Rodgers? You have a lot of faith in him? He has only 4 snaps last year.
Well, you know what? It certainly feels like he's preparing for the season appropriately by going to Egypt, trolling people with his shirt. I feel like he's focused on the right stuff heading into the start of the year.
Very well done. All right, Kevin, you've been in New York for a bunch of years. It's kind of now your adopted home team. What about the Jets?
Sure.
Are they a mess already?
They'll be better this year because Zach Wilson is thousands of miles away, so we can start there.
So
but
mean.
I completely agree with Bill. The Haason Reddick drama was always a bigger deal than the Aaron Rodgers drama of the past few months. To trade for a guy without a deal, an elite player, one of only 2 players, the other being Myles Garrett, with double-digit sacks the last 4 years, you don't get those guys in the bargain bin. If you're trading with Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, you're normally the sucker, okay? You're not pulling a fast one on him. He wanted to get paid. We understand that. To make an offer but not have an agreement is, frankly, football malpractice. You have to understand what you're getting when you trade for a guy like that. I think this is a big deal in a season where they should be all in because, as you said, this could be Aaron Rodgers last year. I think that they really screwed this one
All right, let me ask you this. Longest playoff drought right now in the NFL. You think they make the playoffs this year?
I do. As long as Rodgers plays the full season, I do. That defense is good enough.
There you go. All right, Harry, what do you say about this? Haason Reddick, Aaron Rodgers, what do you make of it?
I think the Jets are still the Jets. I mean, the fact that they have bungled this Haason Reddick thing is absolutely ridiculous because it seems pretty hard to do such a thing. Like, if we're all in agreement that he should have gotten a new contract when he got there, why are the Jets the only team that doesn't see that? But moreover, Kevin just mentioned something is the reason why I still can't buy into the Jets, and I actually don't think that they're going to make the postseason. Ooh. There are 2 massive hurdles that we are still concerned about with this team. One, you have a quarterback that is 40 years old coming off of an Achilles injury. I don't care who the guy is. That is asking a whole lot. And then 2, in front of him, you have a revamped offensive line with 3 guys that are still limited and have not gotten the reps this offseason that they thought that they were going to get together. And then if you look inside the division, you've got Buffalo and Miami. If you look outside the division, you've got Baltimore and Houston. Oh, yeah, and then Kansas City still exists. I just don't see it for this team.
All right, Emily, you spent your youth in that MetLife Stadium parking lot watching the Jets. I don't know. It seems like it starts like this. It's usually not going to end well. What about what's going on with the New York Jets?
So Hassan Reddick is as big of a deal as you getting snubbed by awful announcing, Frank. I'll admit
point.
that, but I don't want to lose the
give you
plot here.
negative.
Yeah, I know. I'm more snubbed for you. Okay, I'm snubbed for you. Where's
Thank
my
you.
empathy points? I just don't want to lose the plot here. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers' potential last season, but what about Robert Saleh as a head coach or Nathaniel Hackett? Like, I want to focus on Hackett here because I don't know if anyone in football has as bad of a 2 years as him, getting fired from the Broncos after that disastrous season, and then last year leading an offense that had just 18 touchdowns. And I know he lost Rodgers and had 13 different combinations on the offensive line, but there were reports this offseason that they were trying to replace him already. So I'm curious, is this guy going to even last this season, or is someone else calling plays by midseason?
I like Aaron Rodgers in the pyramids. I like that whole vision, that's for sure. All right, meanwhile, life for Aaron Rodgers' successor in Green Bay, it keeps getting better. Jordan Love isn't practicing until he gets a new contract, but a deal, it appears, imminent. That's great news for the Packers, who beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. And remember, they had the 49ers on the ropes last January. Kevin, what type of jump are you expecting from Love and the Packers this season?
It could be a Super Bowl jump. I agree that he shouldn't practice the first couple of days until a deal is done. I want to see a deal done very, very soon. I think he'll end up being the highest paid quarterback by annual salary in the NFL. He deserves that. That's just how this goes. It's not about being the best quarterback. It's about being the most recently paid one, and he will be that. But I think the leap he made last year over the second half of the season, where he was basically one of the best arms in football, deep passing, intermediate passing, understanding protections, understanding the chemistry with that young receiving core. I thought it was a really special leap. I thought Matt LaFleur did an amazing coaching job, one of the best coaching jobs we've seen in years from an offensive standpoint. They know that. Everything in the organization points to Love getting a deal done, getting the practice done. He's got real deal leverage right now, and I think he's got that. He needs to exert it, and he is, and it's going to be a huge jump this year.
Harry, in your day job, you get to see young quarterbacks all the time. What do you make of Jordan Love and the Packers?
I think when you see the growth that he had, given how young his receiving core was as well and how they grew alongside him, to Kevin's point, this is a guy that you absolutely have to pay. In weeks 1 through 10, he threw 14 touchdowns, 10 picks, and they were 3 and 6 in those games. In weeks 11 through 18, he threw 18 touchdowns, 1 pick, completed 70% of his passes, and they were 6 and 2. So this is a team that is on the right trajectory. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting with them is on the defensive side of the ball. They brought in Jeff Hafley from Boston College, who I can tell you, and he was on the record saying this as well, he did not like doing all the other things that came with being a college football coach. There is not going to be a more energetic coach in that locker room than Jeff Hafley, and you're going to see it come across in that defense and how aggressive they play.
Emily, it's amazing, right? Timing is everything. He had a great game against Dallas. They came so close to beating the 49ers. Now he's going to strike it rich. You like what the Green Bay is doing here?
Well, Frank, since you're hosting, I'm going to play the role of pessimist. I feel crazy, but at this time last year, we were talking about this kid as someone who only had 83 career attempts in the NFL. And we're like, can he make it as a starter? And then he begins the season with 16 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And I know he went on that heater, and it was an incredible heater. I don't want to take anything away from it, but it was just one half a season. And now, as reported by Adam Schefter and now Kevin Clark, he's going to get one of the richest contracts in NFL history. As Kevin mentioned, it's not a meritocracy when it comes to contracts. It's all about timing and leverage, and they're probably lucking out by getting this done before Dak Prescott. They're going to save some money there. I just feel like the noise around this kid has gotten way too big. Let's just settle down the hype a little bit and let him prove this year in his second full year as a starter that he's got it before we're like, this is the second coming of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in his prime. I don't think we're quite there yet.
Trying to be me, you get one of those. Bill Barnwell, I know you've been sitting there waiting to jump in. What about this whole situation with Jordan Love and the Packers?
This panel is underselling Jordan Love, talking about how it's not a meritocracy, how he's not the best, but just the most recent to get paid. Last 7 weeks of 2023, Jordan Love was #1 in the NFL in QBR. He led that team to a postseason, won a playoff game. He did that with the youngest roster around him in football and the youngest receiving core of wide receivers and tight ends for any team since at least 1990. We're talking about a historically young team around an inexperienced quarterback who put them on his back and dragged them to the postseason with a mediocre defense. So yes, if, as Harry said, if Jeff Hafley improves the defense, yes, if this receiving core finds a breakthrough, yes, if the guys who were missing last year, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, who's now gone, if they are healthier up front, healthier at receiver, this is a legit Super Bowl contender. So yes, Jordan Love should be getting paid because he is the star on a team that might be the most exciting young roster in all of football.
Bill, let me ask ask you this. Why is it certain teams like Green Bay have it figured out? They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Now they're on Jordan Love, and their other teams, like the one in New York, they can't figure it out. How does that work?
Because they go shopping before they're hungry. They go shopping a year or two in advance to get that quarterback. They don't wait until they're desperate for that meal and just grab the first thing they see off the shelf.
All right, Kevin, last word here. Address Emily's pessimism on the whole idea of Jordan Love and the Packers with a long marriage.
First of all, Harry, Jeff Hafley left college because he didn't want to deal with you anymore. Having said that, on the pessimism thing, Emily, I think that every single flaw Jordan Love has had, protections, understanding the blitz, all of that stuff, he's answered them in front of our eyes. If this isn't growth, I don't know what is. He has done everything asked of him. Nobody's reached the heights he has over the second half of the season last year, in the last couple of years from a young quarterback. This is development, this is coaching. By the way, Frank, why don't more teams do this? It's because the Packers don't have an owner. They don't have a crazy guy saying, we got to push this, we got to accelerate this. They get to plan ahead because they're not looking 5 feet ahead at all times.
Wow. Harry, you want to respond to that? Kevin took you out.
Nah, it's all good. You just keep it moving. Some of us are bigger.
Now I'm being told to go. Go. LeBron James is the one who's going. He keeps carrying the U.S. Buy or sell. Coming up next. Big Ten Media Days, that's right, days began today. And the Oregon Ducks, they made quite an entrance. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. How much did it cost to get that mascot to Indianapolis? Come on. We have 4 new schools, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington. And I was just getting used to having Penn State and Maryland being in the Big Ten. All right, Harry, buy or sell the new look Big Ten? And is Oregon, with that big duck, are they your favorite?
Buying it over the new look ACC, which has Cal and Stanford, that's just never going to feel right to me. At least these teams have a Rose Bowl tie. But that duck right there that you saw in that water, that's as big as the expectations as I have for that team. I think what Dan Lanning is building there is huge. Dylan Gabriel and everything that he has done in his career, he's one of the toughest players, honestly, that I have watched in person over the last 4 years, whether he was at UCF or winning the Red River rivalry last year with Oklahoma. But I think the person under the most pressure this year is Ryan Day, because Ohio State has the most talented roster on paper, and he has 3 consecutive losses to Michigan. He's got to change that this year.
There's a college football breakdown. Kevin Clark, what do you say?
The Big Ten champion this year is going to be Ohio State. Okay, this is modern college football. 2 motivated fan bases. Phil Knight wants to give NIL to Oregon to win a national championship, and there's a lot of rich people in Ohio who are tired of losing to Michigan, and they're giving money to stop it. Instant impact transfers. Will Howard, the quarterback from Kansas State. Caleb Downs, defensive back from Alabama. Judkins, the running back from Ole Miss. These are day 1 stars. You add that, Jeremiah Smith from South Florida, one of the best recruits in years at wide receiver, who's going to be ready to play as a true freshman. This is instant impact stuff. They are both playoff teams. Ohio State gets you.
He thinks we're on Ohio State television. Bill Barnway, what do you have?
I'm also leaning Ohio State here because their only real competition in the last few years has been Michigan. They're 40-0 against the rest of the Big Ten. Michigan aside, the biggest blocks getting in the way are gone. Jim Harbaugh is in Los Angeles with the Chargers. 8 day 1 or day 2 picks from Michigan left school this year. Only 2 for Ohio State. They did add a new quarterback, but the defense is very sound. I just think they are more incentivized to win this year with Ryan Day than any other team in this conference.
All right, Emily, you have a Big Ten degree, so educate us. What's going to happen?
We are usually here to defend Penn State. I'm worried about your adjustment period, by the way. Penn State's been in the Big Ten longer than I've been alive. We are going to have a very good defense. But I'm looking at all these preseason polls, and I'm curious. It's 6 out of the top 8 teams are from last year's Big Ten. It's only Oregon and USC that have infiltrated. So because of Ohio State's record against the rest of them, I got to go Buckeyes.
It's hard to get used to all these different teams in these conferences. It's nuts. All right, LeBron James, he rescued Team USA again, scoring the final 11 points in a win over Germany on Monday. The U.S., they did go 5-0 in exhibition games, and they did it without Kevin Durant, who's been sidelined with a calf injury. Does that ring a bell? There's some doubt if Durant will be available for Sunday's first game of Olympic competition against Serbia. Head coach Steve Kerr is keeping him on the roster, however. Buy or sell that decision, Emily?
I'm buying it. 92 Dream Team played against 9 NBA players in the Olympics. These guys are going to have to play against 61. The rest of the world has caught up to the U.S. We saw it in the exhibition season. They squeaked past most of their games. If you have a trump card like Kevin Durant that you can put in the tournament, you got to keep him around. He's that talented.
All right, let's see if Harry can catch up to you. Harry, what do you say about Kevin Durant staying on the roster with the calf injury?
Yeah, I think the reason you keep him, and I know a lot of people are comparing his situation to Kawhi Leonard's, Kawhi Leonard usually finds a way to rest. He is more cautious with his injuries than Kevin Durant is. Kevin Durant is all about basketball. That's why he's on Twitter all the time talking about it. And also, if there's one coach that knows how to make the most out of Kevin Durant, it is Steve Kerr, because he's the one coach that has won two championships, with him. So that's why you keep him on the roster. He's a great player.
And Kevin Clark?
Totally agree with Harry. Kawhi Leonard was managing himself to make sure he was ready for 2028. Okay, he was ramping up for that. That's the type of player he is. Kevin Durant, he's gonna play. I trust Steve Kerr. I trust this roster. Emily, I don't necessarily agree with your take. Germany, that's a good excuse. They have NBA players. That's not why you would play a close game against South Sudan. I'm worried about this roster, but once Kevin Durant gets here, everything will be fine. I trust Steve Kerr.
All right, Bill, the last time we heard about Kevin Durant with a calf injury, Steve Kerr was his coach. It didn't work out so well. What do you make of this?
I want to contrast what's being said here. We're contrasting Kevin Durant as the guy who cares about basketball with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is the guy who's not singularly focused and obsessed with basketball. That seems shocking to me that we would be making that comparison. Kawhi Leonard is obsessed with basketball, and the issue here is it's not obsession, it's health. Kawhi Leonard was not able to play. They brought in Derek White, and Derek White's played a meaningful role in the rotation here. What KD injury and KD not coming off this team tells me is that they don't have a replacement waiting. They don't have a guy off this roster they're confident in, so they are desperate for KD to come back because there's no real alternative waiting if KD's not able to play.
Kevin was making a lot of faces while you were talking, Bill. Kevin, what's the problem?
Kawhi Leonard has missed a lot of games, Bill. That's what we're talking about. We're not doubting that he likes basketball. They all like basketball. We're just talking about the load management part of it, of which Kawhi has partook in, let's say, the last few years.
And I like baseball, so let's move on. Bobby Witt Jr.'s bid for the cycle took a nasty turn when he took a pitch from Humberto Castellanos off the arm in the 6th inning. Of course, the Royals retaliate, and afterwards they accuse the Diamondbacks of intentionally throwing at Witt, but Arizona manager Torey Lovullo wasn't having it. Take a listen.
If you think in your right mind that I was going to ask our team or my team to hit the future of Major League Baseball, one of the best players in Major League Baseball, you're crazy.
All right, Kevin, so in your right mind, do you buy or sell Lovullo here?
I am buying the Diamondbacks explanation. First of all, Witt had another chance to hit for the cycle in the 8th inning. He flew out, didn't get it. But I just think this was unintentional. I don't think they were trying anything. It didn't look like an actual plunking here. Just the mechanics of it were a little bit different. I don't think there was any reason to do it. I'm buying what the D-backs are selling here.
Beanball wars that MLB has told managers like Lovullo to avoid.
Emily Kaplan?
I'm buying that the manager understands the assignment. Baseball needs to protect his stars. However, that doesn't mean that his pitcher didn't go rogue here. He's the one with the arm. He's the one that threw it.
And Harry Lyles?
I'm buying the explanation, and I'm also buying that he has a reputation for being outward in terms of being against intentionally hitting batters, and I'm also buying that it is an attitude that other managers and players around the league need to take as well.
Unfortunately, I have to throw Kevin and Harry out. Look what we're left with. Bill, he's been on fire this morning. And of course, Emily's heading. Age is just a number for Derrick Henry, and so is 1,000 rushing yards. Henry, now with the Ravens, believes he'll join that small fraternity of running backs who gained at least 1,000 yards after turning 30. The other three over the last decade, that's Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore, Raheem Mostert. Do you like Henry's chances, Bill?
I do, because he's not going to be hit as early. Last year, 48% of the time hit in the backfield, 5th highest rate for any back in football. That's not going to happen with the Ravens.
I feel like I got hit a lot this year. Emily, what do you have?
I don't know if he's going to get 1,000. I think he's going to have a productive season. He also said, though, that wear and tear is a state of mind. And I do think that I'm living proof of that. Think of how many punches I've had over you from the years, Frank, and here I am still thriving.
So true. And Bill was handing out a lot of punches. We'll split the point on that one. Showdown 2, a new look for Joe Burrow at Bengals camp today. Look at this, a blonde buzz cut, pretty aggressive. Emily, how should fans feel about this and the Bengals' fortunes this season?
Well, a good quarterback knows how to read the room, and this is clearly a guy that knows how to code switch. I saw him at the Vogue fashion show in Paris. Looked a lot sleeker. This is a look for Southern Ohio.
Bill?
Burrow's going through a quarter-life crisis. You talk about being forgotten, his football mortality. I don't know what it's like to change your haircut for about 15 years now, but he changed his haircut. It feels like he's all in to change things after last season.
Let's see. She did mention Paris. He was in Paris. She's going to Paris. Bon voyage, I think they say. Take the win. Parlez-vous français, Emily Kaplan.
Merci beaucoup. I'd like to talk about some very smart comments today by Emma Hayes, the new U.S. women's football manager, formerly of my beloved Chelsea. And she said, I think the way we're talking is not right about when we get to Paris, we're going to make the semis or the finals. The rest of the world has developed, and it's been disrespectful for the rest of the world to talk like that. I think that is a lesson in humility that the rest of us can take from. And I think the same thing goes for the U.S. men's basketball team. As I said earlier, the rest of the world's caught up with us. We got to, keep our game up.
Yeah, well, remember, it was Canada that won the last Olympics, so the U.S. has a lot to prove. We got bounced out of the World Cup as well. Emily, safe travels. What are you covering over there? Hockey?
News, whatever that means.
That's called general assignment. Have a
Hockey.
good. I'll tell you what, nothing better than covering the Olympics. By the way, tomorrow, we're going to have an actual panelist that finished in the top 10. Guess what? It's not me. Have fun tomorrow.